Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another Monday Night Facebook Live. I am your resident oxygen lady, and as always, we talk about all sorts of really cool things. Tonight's Facebook topic, I'm going to talk a little bit and do a demonstration for you on the differences between drops and droppers. You've heard me say many times that oxygen is the primary component, but it's not the only component. And 4 or 5 years ago, I started to notice something very profoundly in the hyperbaric data models, both anecdotally in what I was seeing here in our practice, and then the feedback that I was getting from the other Andy facilities, as well as some of the cases that we were discussing in the medical board. So very, very interesting point, and that's what led us to incorporating quantum nutrition here into HyperbaricsRx. We are actually the only holistic hyperbaric center of its kind in the world, and we use some state-of-the-art testing as well as hyperbaric oxygen therapy to help your body detox, heal, and repair naturally. So I'll talk a little bit about that. So again, welcome. Great to see you this evening. So we do quantum nutrition, we do we do quantum nutrition testing here too. So we do Facebook Lives every Monday, and lots of different topics here. And again, always great to have you join me this evening. And if you know someone who's interested in hyperbarics, if you know somebody who's got some questions about holistic health, this is live. There always is an opportunity for you to ask me the questions real time in the chat. If you are struggling, if you've got some questions, if you need to do a consult, if you're curious if hyperbaric oxygen therapy can be impactful on your health, can it help your chronic condition? Have you been told that there's nothing you can do when, surprise, surprise, there may happen to be volumes of published data on how hyperbaric oxygen therapy benefits something you may be dealing with? So please, our number is at the bottom, and feel free to reach out to us either through the message or go ahead and send us an email. We do really neat things here all the time. It's pretty amazing with it. So again, believe it or not, I'm sitting in front of our supplement case here, and this is just a small sample of the physician grade whole food supplements that we use to support the oxygen healing mechanisms. And interestingly enough, our food supply, unfortunately, has been very compromised. And one of the things that we started to see is a fall off in efficacy in certain hyperbaric protocols that historically were extremely effective. And it started to create some interesting data. And of course, as is so common, nutrition is being completely ignored as a part of the discussion, as well as the potential of environmental toxins, things that people encounter all the time that could, in small quantities over extended period of times, reach very serious toxic levels to the point that it's damaging the cell's ability to function. It's the equivalent of stalling the engine, the mitochondria. So very interesting thing. And that was part of what led me to using some targeted supplementation to help improve hyperbaric outcomes. And I actually will be speaking at a conference where I'll be presenting some of these just incredible case studies. And again, oxygen's the primary component, but it's not the only component. And when you supply the other pieces to it, when you handle the toxins, and when you supply the supportive nutrition to that particular organ, it's really, really impressive. So I'm going to be presenting some case studies on this at a conference in December. It is the Quantum Leap Conference, and I just put the link into the comments, so you can go ahead and check that out. And I strongly encourage you. It is just an amazing conference of holistic healers. And again, I'm going to be specifically presenting some case studies using hyperbaric oxygen therapy and how the outcome of the hyperbaric was improved with quantum nutrition testing. So very, very cool. I do Facebook Lives here every Monday night. Again, tonight's topic is drops versus droppers. Again, targeted supplementation, it's very, very different than people think. And a lot of times people are taking supplements and they're like, is it doing anything? Is it working? I mean, I don't feel worse, but the question is, do you feel better? And a lot of times the person is not taking the right amount. And this is where in-person quantum nutrition testing and quantum nutrition testing through telehealth is really an amazing tool to personalize the dose, and it works. And I have firsthand experiences with it. I have firsthand experiences with my family. And of course, as I mentioned, I'll be presenting a couple absolutely amazing cases that, well, they just really, they're going to blow you away. So I hope I get to see you at the conference. And I really look forward to sharing just some of the incredible things that we are doing here with other facilities. Last week, I did talk about understanding oxygen dosage. Is everybody treated the same pressure in a hyperbaric chamber? And I gave some understanding of the different mechanisms there. And again, if you're a facility, this is great information in order to how to answer questions. So hello, fellow Andy facilities that are listening to this on the replay. If you're thinking about being an Andy hyperbaric facility, some of what I'm sharing with you is an example of the coaching and facility support that comes behind the scenes. The Andy Hyperbaric Facility Program is actually integrated into what we do here at HyperbaricsRx. It's part of our success. It's part of why we are able to have the outcomes that we do. It directly correlates to the protocols that we use, and it really is something very different. We have a ton of videos on our Facebook page, and I did a video on what is a HERX. This comes up in hyperbaric medicine all the time. Hyperbaric medicine isn't the only area that this comes up, but what I will say is that hyperbaric oxygen therapy can produce a HERX sometimes in a single session. It's a little unusual in that way because it has some very, very powerful mechanisms of action, which is part of the reason why it may be so beneficial depending on what your health goals, be they anti-aging or recovering from a chronic condition or just wanting a little life extension and better focus and clarity. So great video, really neat topic. Jarek's Herxheimer symptoms are very commonly overlooked. A lot of people, for example, deal with chronic headaches and chronic aches and pains, and they're actually going through a mild Herx cycle. And when you deal with the root cause, which happens to be an undiagnosed bacteria, it's a critter, it's a bug, you handle it naturally, and amazing things that can be done. So really neat. And as with everything that we do here at HyperbaricsRx, it comes out of my personal journey, and it's truly a blessing to be able to of essentially created an opportunity for other people to experience essentially what's the reason why I'm able to be here and share information with you. So my personal story about how I got into hyperbaric oxygen therapy at the clinical level is under a video. So again, I really encourage you to check it out. Pretty neat. So some great stuff all the way around. And again, as I mentioned, we are one of the only holistic hyperbaric centers in the world. So oxygen is the primary component. And every cell in our body needs it. All the chemical reactions are oxygen based. Cells have voltage. There is a pH based on that. And it's really some very fascinating chemistry. But again, as I was mentioning, oxygen's the primary component, but it's not the only component. We need other nutrients. We need other antioxidants. And one of the things that is happening right now is people have such poor diets that not only is it contributing to their chronic condition, not only is it causing an inflammatory cycle that's increasing their pain, but it's actually interfering in core functions, the normal apoptosis cycle, the normal regenerative cycle. Every cell in our body lives for a certain amount of time. It's programmed that way. It's very interesting. And then it dies, and then the body makes a new cell. That process is very oxygen dependent. But again, oxygen's not the only component. It needs other nutrients. And when we don't have enough antioxidants, those primarily come from eating a proper balance of fruits and vegetables. And when we don't have enough antioxidants in our diet, then we have other challenges because our body is not properly able to make new cells. It's not making the new cells as well. And in a case of an area where the area has been injured, the tissue's been damaged, now the healing mechanism is compromised. That's where a lot of wounds come from. They're rooted in lack of nutrition. If the body was getting enough nutrients, it wouldn't result in the inability to properly turn over the cells, to properly make the new ones. It's really neat. We're always in a regenerative cycle. And in general, speaking of regenerative, hyperbaric oxygen kicks that up by about 80% faster. And if the area is compromised, it could be 100, 150% faster in regards to how much upregulated that cellular repair is. So simple way, you heal faster, you're out of pain faster, the wound closes faster, the edges granularize. That just means what happens when the borders come together and the wound heals. They get sharp and crisp, and that's kind of the process of the tissue coming back together. And all of that happens faster. It happens with less scarring. There's less pain, there's less inflammation. But again, it's not the only piece. So we have a whole apothecary here. And again, I'm sitting in front of our case here, and it is just a very, very small part of the wide, very specific, however, selection of physician grade supplements. They do very, very specific things. And we are able to use these in combination with in-person quantum nutrition testing or telehealth to essentially give the body all of the other pieces. And then we supercharge it with the oxygen. And it's something that needs to be personalized. It's something that it's not the same for everybody. It changes in some cases in order to prevent from having severe reactions, in order to prevent from having Jarrett's-Herxheimer reactions, which is the video that I mentioned a little earlier. The dosage need to be really specific. Somebody that's starting targeted supplementation, we may need to adjust the initial dosing. And you're like, wait, what's it? And yeah, plants are powerful. Yes, these are essentially just food, but the dosing really matters. And very often, this is one of the reasons why the supplements don't work. So I'll give you a very, very real example. We had somebody who is now doing a program with us, and they brought us one of their supplements, and they were taking Hawthorne for their blood pressure. And this particular supplement was actually recommended to them by their physician. They've been taking it for some time, and they didn't feel that it was working for them. So we used in-person quantum nutrition testing to get a reflex response to see how many of this particular capsule do they need to take per day. And surprise, surprise, they tested out on 15. Now, that means a couple of things. Number one, they were only taking 2. So it's not a surprise that the supplement wasn't working for them. They're testing out on their reflex response, their quantum testing for 15. So, all right, that's kind of interesting with it. So not only does it mean that they're not taking enough, so we didn't create the opportunity for it to be effective, but it also probably means that there isn't very much of the active agent. There probably isn't very much hawthorn. There isn't very much of the botanical, the specific phytochemical from the plant that is necessary to get this medicinal benefit. So we use as an example one of the spagirically processed botanicals that we work with here, and it uses this very, very cool extraction process to make a liquid, a tincture, and the botanical is now highly bioaccessible. So, using the same technique, now they're only testing out on one dropper, not drops, dropper. But one dropper is a heck of a lot less than 15 capsules. So they just started on a more accurate set of dosing, and it'll be very curious to see how they progress. So, talking about that dropper, what do I mean by dropper? So when we're talking about drops and droppers, we're talking about liquids. Targeted supplementation, the physician grade supplements that we work with, they can be capsules, they can be powders, they can also be liquids. And by the way, if you have held off from working to heal and rebalance your health naturally because you haven't been able to take supplements, if that's been a challenge for you, if swallowing pills have been difficult, we can work with that. We can put together a personalized program that you test out on, that's only using liquid supplements and topical applications. So just because you can't swallow capsules doesn't mean that you can't still have effective targeted supplementation. So they have little squeegees here, little droppers. And when we're talking about a dropper, basically you want to put it into the liquid, you want to squeeze the top all the way, you want to release it, and it's going to pick up, it's not going to come all the way up to the top. So you'll probably see something about like that. It's not going to fill the entire glass piece. You'll see it'll usually be about a third, maybe a half, depending on the size of the dropper. This dropper is a little long. So this is what we mean by a dropper. And in this particular case, this particular product is spicy. So if you're hardcore, absolutely. But I personally recommend putting it in about an ounce of water and drinking it that way. So you would go ahead and you take that dropper, you'd put it in an ounce of clean water, like distilled water, and then go ahead and drink it that way. So that's what we mean by a dropper. And again, liquids are very, very possible. They work amazing. They work great with kids. This is another example, same kind of thing, little just different company. This particular product is clear. And you can see that's what we mean by a dropper. So again, go ahead, put it all the way in the bottle. You want to completely squeeze the top. Go ahead and then pull it back out. And again, it's not going to fill all the way to the top. That's okay. That's what we expect. That's what we mean by a dropper. Okay. Now, drops is probably a little obvious, but if you feel silly, that's okay. It's a really, really common question. And it's another example of why you need some help here. You need some guidance. While drops and droppers seems like a really simple thing, it seems like a really obvious thing. When you add that on top of everything else that's going on in life, if it's not something that you're comfortable with, if you're not something that you work with all the time, it can get really confusing. So drops, droppers, not necessarily the same thing. And again, while it sounds so simple, it does emphasize that sometimes you really need some help. And on a personalized program, it is very common to go from drops to droppers and back and forth. You can also use drops topically. So what do I mean by a drop? So I'd go ahead and I just put some into the dropper. And then what do we mean by one drop? We literally mean one drop. So that's what we would mean by a drop. So if I happen to say, oh, I'm going to use this topically and I'm going to put it on my hand, just put the one drop. That's what we did there. That's what we mean by a drop. If we're supposed to be using this, again, little spicy, probably better to put most of this stuff into a little small amount of distilled water and drink it that way. They do vary depending on the particular style with that. So drops, droppers, and I hope that was fun. And I hope I got to share some neat information. Again, we really have some amazing ways to accelerate the body's ability to regenerate and help to restore function. Hyperbaric oxygen therapy is regenerative medicine. And when you pair it with the other components, when you give the body what it needs, some of the things that we see are absolutely incredible. And again, I'm going to be speaking at the Quantum Leap conference at the end of the year in Orlando in December, and I'm going to share a few of the cases. And I have to admit, one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about quantum nutrition testing is because if you would have told me that these particular cases would be where they are based on the number of hyperbaric sessions that they did, I would have considered that an exception. I would have considered that an above average response. But it's not. It's just filling in the other pieces. And I didn't realize that there's a whole group of people that aren't responding to hyperbaric oxygen therapy, or they're not responding as well as they could because the oxygen is trying to floor the engine, but all of the other things that it needs for that to happen aren't there, or they're there in a very small amount. So at the end of the day, we're just talking about food, and it doesn't conflict with anything else that's going on. It's not something that conflicts with medications. And when this is personalized and targeted, right? Yeah, sure. Taking supplements are great, but there needs to be an outcome. There needs to be why are we doing this? How do you know your supplements are even working? And if you just said to yourself, yeah, are they working? Then you want to go ahead and schedule a consult with us here, and we can answer that question and have you in a situation where you know that the things that you're doing are being positively impactful on your health and well-being. So as always, I do Facebook Lives every Monday at 6 o'clock. Huge variety of topics. We've got tons of videos there. To our clients at HyperbaricsRx, hi, always great to see you again. Look forward to seeing you next time on the schedule. Hello, fellow Andy facilities. Always great to say hello. I'll see you at tonight's facility Q&A. And if you're considering being an Andy certified hyperbaric facility, well, please reach out to Andy headquarters at andyhq.com, and we would love to take your application. So as always, it's been great. My name is Laura Betts. I am founder and facility director of HyperbaricsRx down here in South Florida. I am the Oxygen Lady, and you have a great night. Safe and happy diving.